Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim's PC and I build custom PCs to suit anyone's needs or budget. I also live stream all my builds and repairs for transparency and educational purposes. So if you would like to get an awesome new PC and you'd like to see it get put together live, send me a message today. Alright, this is just a quick follow-up video and my phone's ringing straight away. Look at that. I'll have to be called back. Alright, so this is just a quick follow-up video from last night because we left it there a little bit early because after removing the CPU cooler from multiple CPUs, the thermal paste had dried out a little bit. I really should have repasted it before I applied it, but I thought we were going to be right, but apparently we weren't right. Screwdriver. So we're basically going to remove the cooler again. Okay. Hey Nick, how you going? Oh, two Nicks, how you going? So, this build, I can't remember how much it was. It was around the $5,000 mark because it's got a 3080. You know how much they're worth at the moment. Go. So I'm just using some 100% pure isopropyl alcohol here. So we're not going to take the CPU out, but we are going to give it a clean. Go. ground. Let's get this a bit clean. Okay. Let's very carefully put this back. Oh shit. So as you can see, it's a little bit more awkward putting these things on upright. Not just the thermal paste application, but also just getting these bolts on. Alrighty, so that's looking good. Okay, now we can fire her up and see how she's going. No, sorry mate, no, we're not selling graphics cards just on their own, okay? No one's selling cards on their own, and you can thank all the Bitcoin miners and all of the other market factors that are going on right now. So if you want a graphics card, you either have to get to the retail stores just like everybody else and be there at the right place at the right time, ready to pay for your graphics card, because no one's going to be selling cards unless it's at scalper prices. So I had a couple of 3080s here. If you want to pay me an extra $500 than what they're worth, maybe we can consider that. But I'd rather not do that, to be honest. I don't really want to be a scalper. I don't want to be someone who just buys graphics cards and puts hundreds of dollars on them and just flogs them off like that. You know, it's not what I'm here to do. So yeah, no graphics cards on their own. That'll be ongoing until the situation improves, basically. 100 other people right now who are like, oh, I've got my computer, I don't need a computer, I just need a graphics card. Sorry. I had nothing else to say. I get asked it 10 times every day, do I have a graphics card? I put ads up for 3080 cards that are with a new PC build, and I get 10 responses going, can I get the cards only, even though it specifically states that the graphics cards are not being sold only, they are only bundled with a new PC purchase. That's the way that it is now. And it's the same when Bitcoin miners come up to me and they want all these cards. Nah, I don't sell them. I'm not selling cards on their own. There's no supply for them, and the situation's not going to change anytime soon, unfortunately. Like Nick's here to pick up his computer, so I'm just going to run down and give that to him, and then I'll come back. Alright, sorry about that. Nick was just at the gate picking up a computer off me. So, need to activate Windows there apparently. That's alright. It's not what we're here for. That's looking better. Alrighty. Okay, so now we can begin a stress test. Make sure our fans are on full speed. Alrighty. So that's coming along there. Let's have a look at these comments. So Nick was asking, so basically there was an incompatibility between the 5800X CPU and the Aorus B550 master motherboard, or more specifically the BIOS that was on. And so as a result, it was failing to boot into the Windows installation program. And as a result, I pulled it out and I picked up a spare Ryzen CPU. It was 2600X. And then I put that CPU on this motherboard. Error. It was displaying an error code that tells you absolutely nothing. So I just assumed that that's just going to be. And then I tried another CPU, a Ryzen 3300X, and then that got it to boot. And then I was able to boot into Windows, install Windows and get the new BIOS on the board. Then I was able to swap back to the original. And then we got it up and we're ready to do the stress test. And as soon as I started the stress test, I was like, okay, so we've definitely not got we don't have a good mount on our cooler. I've swapped this too many times tonight. I'm going to do a follow-up video tomorrow and we can go from there. So but yes, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you in this video. Just a quick result was from last night, because obviously we've got a 3080 in here. It's running really nice. We did do the benchmarks last night, so people could see how it was running. And we did a couple of 3060s the previous night, so If you're looking at those numbers, you probably noticed a big difference. Alrighty. So Dylan's just asked if he needs 2 cables for his SATA drives. Yeah, so you need the SATA data cable and the SATA power cable. So the power cables will be there. I'm not sure if the SATA cables were there. I'm pretty sure I installed them for you, because didn't we talk about this? Or am I getting you confused with? If not, you can just use the same data cables from your old computer. They're the same cables, so you can just plug them in. I mean, we're still getting pretty toasty up here, but this is a synthetic load that we're doing to it. Probably worth undervolting. That's interesting. So why won't it let me install Ryzen Master? Isn't this what I just downloaded? So driver not installed. Let's see if we can fix this one up. Well, that's very odd. So what's the solution here? that solution did not work. Let's give that a go. Aha, look at that. Okay. So we are going to undervolt our CPU. So if you're wondering a little bit about why am I doing that? So we're getting a little bit hot there on the stress test, and so sometimes you get this with CPUs, right? Well, what we're going to do, applied a very slight undervolt. Oh no, wait, this is full manual, so it's not boosting. Okay, so 4.5 and 1.3. And so now we can see those temperatures have dropped down a little bit. So voltage was just set a little bit too high here. You don't want to undervolt too much because then you just run into like instability. Hey Anthony, how you going? AJ says, damn, that's fast. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's working. That's looking pretty good, actually. Can we push the voltage up a little bit? Yeah. Like, it's getting a little bit warm, but it's certainly not overheating now. Hey Fred, how you going? Good to have you with us. So yeah, that's solved our little temperature issue that we were having there before. So just a very slight undervolt. 0.15 volts under. Oh, 0.175 volts under. And that's all we needed to make a big difference in those temperatures. And of course, undervolting is it's not dangerous at all. Putting less electricity through a CPU is not going to damage it. Hey Mick, how you going? Good to have you with us. So yeah, we're just finishing off on this PC from last night. We had some, we've had a few hiccups along the way. Nothing major, just things that slowed us down. CPU compatibility and stuff. Good old Ryzen. Gotta love AMD for their awesome levels of compatibility and refinement. But they perform really well, so we'll give them that. How's that? No, I just think AMD needs to reevaluate their mounting mechanisms for their CPU. AMD needs to work more closely with third-party developers of other hardware components, just to make sure that all AMD products are just as compatible with pretty much everything like Intel is. And also, of course, they need to make a case for business customers to actually switch to AMD from Intel, because the status quo is businesses run on Intel. So a couple of points for AMD to work on there, and if I was going to give Intel some points to work on, I think these are all pretty obvious. You need some new blood, and you need to work out the problems with your manufacturing process, which I think they've done. They've had a new CEO for about 6 months now, and he's an engineer, so he's not just some corporate guy who's running it. He worked as like a senior engineer for the company for over 20 years. And he's come out of retirement now to head up the company as CEO. So the guy who's running Intel now, as opposed to before, you've got someone who's a pro, well respected in the industry. People at both AMD, Nvidia, all around the industry, they know who he is, and he's well respected and he knows his stuff. So if anyone's going to turn Intel around from where they're at the moment, it's this guy. So a lot of stuff's going to happen over the next few years, so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. So how are our temps going combined? Yeah, 84, staying within the parameters it needs to. Our graphics card not overheating at all, sitting there at 69 degrees, so the fans are just under the threshold for 100%. And so what we could do, if we had a case of the graphics card getting a bit hot, we could change the orientation of these fans, and we could blow cool air directly onto our graphics card. But I don't think we're going to need it, based on the temps that I'm seeing here. Because Thermark pushes it pretty hard. And like, we'll feel, obviously the glass is only a couple of centimeters there away from the graphics card, so I can feel some heat on the glass there. But that's not anything to be worried about. That's just the physical properties of the glass responding to the environment and starting to absorb the heat that is being generated by the components within the case. It's not much different to, you turn the oven on at first, come back 15 minutes later and you touch the glass and it's still kind of cold. You come back in half an hour later, it's like 100 degrees. Same sort of principle. AJ just said, yeah, hopefully Intel gives us a surprise again. It's kind of worrying, especially now that they have broken up with Apple. Yes and no. Apple probably were holding Intel back a little bit, to be honest. Apple's a very regimented type organization. You work with Apple. Apple doesn't work with you, kind of thing. So, while I'm sure it's a lucrative deal for the business in terms of volume that they're going to move out with a contract like Apple, I think that not having Apple as a customer there actually frees them up to do other things. So Apple in my opinion, I'm not a big fan of Apple. I refuse to work on Apple products. The reason is Apple makes software that's designed to, it's basically, they design their like proprietary software. Take iTunes for example. They put elements of malware into their own software to make it very hard for people on Windows computers to actually fully remove their product. So they've been doing this for years. I remember back when iTunes first launched, I bought an iPod. It's the first Apple product I'd ever purchased. And it was fine for a while until I got to the stage where I was no longer using an iPod, and I no longer wanted to use the app. And to completely remove iTunes from, would have either been Windows XP or Windows 7. Let me pull up that, go into run, and I typed in some weird word and this screen popped up. That's the registry editor. And so all of that stuff in there is key information for your computer and how to run different programs and stuff like that. Well, I had to actually go into the registry and manually search through traces of Apple products. They're not just called iTunes, it's just random acronyms and stuff that they use that don't reflect any of their retail branding and stuff. So you have to go through and find all of them. If not, if you just try and uninstall iTunes, you would get this thing called iTunes Helper. And every time you turn on the computer, you get an error from iTunes Helper saying that cannot find the file. So it required a manual removal, and that's just one example. Apple just kind of they cater to people who don't know anything about the technology, and they cater to people who think that technology is like buying a computer. They think that essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to do what a company like Mercedes-Benz does with automobiles with computers. So they position themselves as this premium, high-tier brand, and they have a whole range of products from really crap computers that have an Apple logo on them to really high-end computers with awesome specs. And it's exactly the same as Mercedes-Benz. You can get an A180, aka the gay 180, or you can get, you know, like a an SLK 550 or something like that. It's some sort of high-end AMG thing, which is like a real Mercedes. Apple do the same thing, and they make their products intentionally hard to work on. They don't want people like me to touch their products. They want you to bring it back to their authorized repairers and pay you know, as much as what you paid for the computer just to get your screen fixed or whatever. So, yeah, good riddance. I think honestly, I think Apple will be happier with Apple's own silicon, and I think Intel will be happier not trying to bend over backwards to meet the obligations required. Like, you know, they had a contractual agreement for a certain period of time, and Intel was fulfilling their obligations under the contract, and then the contract expired, and Intel's like, hang on, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot for you guys, we want to stop that. Blah, 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 we want to do this and we want to do that, and Apple's like, no, it doesn't fit with what we want to do. And then it's just basically a big dummy spit and they go their separate ways. But obviously Apple needed to have something in their back pocket to get away from Intel. So Lee says, hey, good to see all the recent builds you've done. Nice to see people have trust in the smaller companies who do way better work. The computer is running like a dream. Keep pumping out the quality. Thanks, Lee. Really appreciate it. Lee got that awesome looking white Lian Li case with the white 3090 card. So he's another Brisbane local. So he just picked that up from me from my place, and yeah, he's very happy. It's a lovely computer, and you know that's gonna be realistically all you need for the next probably 5 to 8 years at this stage. I reckon. I reckon that even in 8 years' time, I reckon a 3090 will probably still keep up. At least you'll have a playable experience in games, because we're at a point now where so if you look at how far computers have come since 2011 and 2021, right? That difference there is not going to be the same ratio as the difference between 2021 and 2031. We're coming up to a point of diminished returns. So it's actually a good time to buy a PC, because if you buy a new PC in 2021, more so than any other year prior, you are more future-proofed than ever before. I mean, when you bought computers in the 90s and 2000s, there was kind of like a joke among people in the know when it came to IT, and what they would say was basically you never buy a new computer, because as soon as you buy that new computer, you take it out of the shop, bring it home, unbox it, set it up, it's already obsolete and not worth. As soon as you take it out of the shop, it's instantly not worth anything. It's worth like a quarter of what you paid for it. That's not the case anymore. If you buy a high-end computer today, it's still going to be a high-end computer in 2 years at least. So there's this whole thing about, oh yeah, it's obsolete straight away. That's not really a thing anymore. So what else we got? Just some. As we can see there, how's our CPU going? Oh, it's dropped right down because it's not doing anything anymore, because we didn't set up. Oh, Scott's not. You're not even gonna know yourself with this computer, mate. Like, such a big step up from what you've got. It'll make such a difference. So I'm getting a little bit warm there. I reckon we just stick with the 0.2 volt undervolt here, and this will help keep our temperatures nice and cool, even when doing insane things like rendering a video while we're playing a 3D game. So but yeah, what a great else to say about this PC. It's all ready to go. Cable management, as always, is a dream. I think I used maybe 2 or 3 zip ties. That was it. So it's not like the neatest job of cable management, but the point is, by only using minimal zip ties and having all this room just to bunch cables together and stuff them away, it means that if one of these fans dies and you need to replace a fan, the whole job of removing that fan and installing the new fan becomes significantly easier. If you tie up all your cables with a million zip ties and make it all look perfect, it's going to look great, and that's cool. I love a good, satisfyingly neat lot of cable management, just like the next person. But when you build and work on PCs all day, every day, you learn pretty fast that you can spend a lot of time both doing that, and you can also spend a lot of time undoing it and then redoing it. So what I've come to realize is good cable management means that you can put the back cover, the back panel on the PC without forcing it down. It doesn't have to be perfectly neat. That's why it's at the back there, hidden away. What you want is to be able to easily access all of your cables. And if something fails, it should be really simple. Unplug it, pull it out, put the new one in. It shouldn't be a big hassle. You shouldn't have to cut out 20 zip ties to change one fan. It should just be nice and simple. It shouldn't be a headache for you. It should be really easy and simple to set up. You don't need to, solve any differential equations to do it. It's just a couple of ties in strategic locations, and that's it. So let's put some more comments down here. Let's try to keep up with these. Make it a bit bigger so I can read. Fred says Ryzen 5800X, ROG Strix X570E, Cooler Master SFX Gold, 850 watt, Corsair Dominator, RAM 32 gigabytes, Cooler Master Masterbox, Gigabyte Aorus Liquid Cooler 360, Samsung 980 Pro, and you've gone all really high-end parts, Gen 4 SSDs even. I've got Gen 4 SSDs, but to be honest, I can't tell any difference between Gen 4 speeds and Gen 3 speeds in terms of usability, game load times, Windows load times. There is a difference, but it's so small that I can't really notice it. So in general, if someone doesn't say to me, I want the highest performing SSD, I generally don't even bother with Gen 4 or even like Samsung priced SSDs. They're the highest performance, but so I use a lot of Crucial P1 NVMe SSDs. They are good value, reliable, cheap NVMe SSDs, and I can't notice the difference between one of them and one that costs 2.5 times the price. So I'm never going to recommend that to my customers, right? So there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with going with the best, but I try and, whenever I do a quote, this is why you don't see me use too many Samsung drives, is because I'm generally advising people to spend a little bit less on that Samsung SSD and spend a little bit more money on your monitor, or spend a little bit more money on your graphics card or your memory or something like that, because I generally see the higher grade memory is a better investment than going from a Gen 3 to a Gen 4 NVMe SSD in terms of like what that means for you. And certainly monitor and graphics card. If you could get if an extra $150 is the difference between a better graphics card or a worse graphics card, I'd say put that $150 in your graphics card, or put that $150 in your memory or your monitor, because I think that $150 extra monitor is going to be quite substantial. If you went from a $450 monitor to a $600 monitor, I'd say you'd be going from probably 27 inch to 32 inch and keeping all the other specs the same. So big difference there, compared to spending an extra $150 on an SSD and it's going to load into Windows 0.2 of a second faster, maybe. Yeah, not a really good use of that extra money. So yeah, a little bit of my rationale there. So like I say to people, I'll use whatever parts you want. I don't have a problem with it unless there's some reason why that part wouldn't be adequate for what you're doing. So I got no sort of, the only thing I'm biased to is like price to performance. So I'll always that option that's the better price to performance. It all depends on their needs and what sort of person they are. So yeah, well, Fred, honestly, man, if you're looking at buying just a card, really wouldn't recommend buying a 3080 this year, because if you're going to pay just a card, it's going to cost you a fortune. So I got a ROG Strix 3080. I don't have it. It's downstairs with my pile of components and stuff. But basically, I picked that card up for, I think it was 24. I've seen it for sale on Marketplace for $3,000, listed the same day as I got it. So person probably got that at the same time as me, and they've just taken it straight home, put $3,000 on it on Marketplace. And don't think that these scalpers are not having any effect on the retail pricing, because they are. Because as soon as smart retailers start realizing that people are paying scalpers $400 more than what they're selling, then the retailer just goes, nah, fuck this, I'm putting the price up. And this is how the free market works, right? As soon as someone realizes that there's massive demand for something and other people are selling it for more, they put their price up. And there's nothing to stop them from doing that. In fact, it's illegal for a manufacturer to start dictating to retailers how much they have to sell their product for. At least under Australian consumer law it is. So if I used to work for a big multinational beverage company, I can't go into a shop and go, hey mate, from now on, all of our 2-litre soft drinks, you sell them for this. And that's a hard rule. If you don't sell them for that, I'm going to stop supplying you. I cannot say that. I cannot make that demand from a customer. And that's how the law is set up to protect people and to protect consumers. And so it means that there's a level of separation between the companies that manufacture and sell, not completely in bed with the other, and both have their own independent motivations, and that's how it kind of works out. And so the same thing applies for computer parts. So Nvidia can say, hey, this is what the retail price should be for the 3080, and they can say $799 US. And that doesn't mean that the retailers have to do it. You might notice that in Australia they say the recommended retail price, not the retail price. So they can only recommend how much you'll sell the product for. They cannot tell you how much that you will sell the product for. And that's why we have the situation the way that we do. Oh, that stopped again. Oh well, I'm not too concerned. I'm not too concerned about this overheating. We've done that voltage adjustment, and that seems to be working pretty well. Our graphics card getting a little bit warm there. 73, but it seems to have plateaued. I don't think it's going to be getting too much warmer than that. When's the 3080 Ti coming out? Oh man. The 3080 Ti is just... The 3080 Ti is just NVIDIA going, right, we need to like overclock the hell out of some of our 3080s to make them match the rasterization performance of the 6900 and 6800 relative to the 3080. That's all it is, and there's no... It's not like when the 3080 comes out that there's going to be like a new batch of stock and the supply issues will evaporate and there'll be some more stock finally. It's... I wish that was true. I really wish that was true. It's just not true. Unfortunately, the 3080 Ti and the 3080 might have a different name, but they are still what's called GA102s. That's the name of the GPU, which is kind of like the CPU that's inside the graphics card. That's called a GA102, and that's what a 3090 and a 3080 is based on. The 3090 is the full-size version and full-spec version of a GA102 reference card. The 3080 is the cut-down spec version with the same GPU. That's why they're so similar in performance, 3080 and 3090. And the same can be said for GA104, which is 3070 and 3060 Ti. That's why they are so close together, because they're the same CPU. It's just the other stuff, the other components that have been cut down. Also, the clock of the CPU isn't clocked quite as high and all that. It's all set up differently and tuned differently. But fundamentally, they are the same. So the 3090 and the 3080. So we've got 3090s in supply, no 3080s. Why is that? Well, obviously all the market factors, but more importantly and more on a production side, it's the fact that you're making GA102s, right? You make these chips and you do the usual binning process that you do with silicon chips, right? You test them and you see which ones perform better and which ones perform worse. And so if they perform above a certain threshold, they'll become a 3090, right? And if they perform below a certain threshold, they'll become a 3080. But what happens if they start making chips and they pretty much all start exceeding the 3090 threshold? And you've got the current market situation. If you're NVIDIA, which one are you going to make? Are you going to make the one that you sell for like twice as much, or the one you sell for half price? You're going to make the one you're going to sell at the highest margin, because the dollar reigns supreme, right? So that's what they're doing. So that's why you can get 3090, and it's the same story with 3070. 3070 is the full version of GA104. It's the expensive one. They're not going to make any 3060 Ti's with the situation like it is, unless they have GPUs that come out that aren't at 3070 levels. So that's part of the factor, that's part of it as well. And so 3060, normal 3060, don't get this confused. 3060 and 3060 Ti are two fundamentally different GPUs. So 3060 Ti is the GA104 and the 3060 is the GA106. The 3050, which Anthony has just asked about, that will also be a GA106, I believe. So it's going to be a cut down version of the 3060. And I believe that there is also a Ti planned, a 3050 Ti, a 3070 Ti, a 3080 Ti, and I do believe that they will release a either something that basically replaces the Titan, or it'll replace RTX 8000 they'll do something there, some sort of monster card with 48 gigs of VRAM that you can SLI with another one, give yourself nearly 100 gigabytes of VRAM. There'll be some professionals out there who could utilize that sort of VRAM for their uses, so they'll no doubt do it. But that's what I would be expecting to see, but I don't think they're going to do that yet. They'll wait until the time's right for that, when this situation resolves itself. Because right now, I think they're making too much money out of 3090. So, yeah, hopefully a few fun facts there about the NVIDIA GPUs and sort of making sense of those names and stuff like that, and understanding a bit more why things are the way they are at the moment, why you can't get 3080, why magically there's 3090, 3070 and 3060, but no 3060 Ti, no 3080. So it's pretty much, yeah. A lot of people don't realise that, because they think, I mean, if you're just an ordinary customer, you think that it's the same, they're fundamentally different cards. A 3080 is different to a 3090 and a 3070 is different to a 3080. They are, but, you know, fundamentally this is, these are the same chips between that 3080 and that 3090 and that 3060 Ti and that 3070. So, a few fun facts there. Staying just under temp there with Cinebench, and well under temp there for Furmark. So I'm probably going to leave it here for this afternoon, but we'll be back tonight. We've got another 3060 Ti, sorry, not 3060 Ti, another 3060 rig. This one's an Asus Tough Gaming version, so pretty much probably the second best 3060 Ti that you can get. Sorry, I said Ti again. It's because we were talking about them earlier. 3060 that you can get. So that'll be going live probably around 7 o'clock tonight. So got some stuff to do earlier in the night. We've got to take care of that. But we'll be going live about 7 o'clock. So, yeah. Alright. Have a good one, everyone. And I'll catch you all in the next video.